this whole session, the next 1 hour, is all going to be focusing on users. Remember, I said you can define your audience, but that doesn't mean you know your audience, and that is usually the biggest challenge. Not because people don't want to find out how to more about their audience, because it's very difficult to find out about the audience. We were talking about it doing surveys. You're trying to find out about your audience. I was giving an example of standing at the Raffles City MRT, people coming out, talking to them, trying to find out about the audience. It's very difficult. And the reason it's so important is that usually, whether you want it or not, your audience will tell you how they're feeling about your product. They'll either tell you by not choosing your product at all, so you'll know people are not interested, right? Or they'll tell you they'll buy your product and you'll get a lot of complaints, right? They'll be like, or they come to your website. You're getting spending a lot of money on bringing people to the website, but they come to the website, you're spending all that marketing money, but then they're not buying anything. So the thing is, people will tell you give you feedback about your product by either whether you like it or not. The best thing you can do is prepare yourself for it and test it. You want to place yourself in the best position to get the most out of your product, right? So this session, we're going to talk about some techniques which we use to, one, find out a bit more about your audience, and two, how to get everyone in the organization aligned to focusing on making decisions around the audience rather than internal targets. So this is kind of like a persona that Azhar shared earlier. So I'm sharing a persona which we're going to use in this example. So this is Joyce. So let's say she used to be a florist in the Philippines or somewhere. And she's 35 years old, somewhere in that age. She doesn't want to share her age. She, let's say, earns 80K to 100K. She's just moved to Singapore. And she's very tech literate, right? So this is the person, this is the picture I'm painting of this person in front of you. And she's just moved to Singapore. This is, let's say, her second or third day in Singapore. Sorry, I'm getting in front of the screen. Second or third day in Singapore, she's moved here. And the day she landed, she joined her job, right? So which means she's just staying in a hotel, or staying with a friend. She's working in the CBD. So this is, now the evening, Wednesday evening, let's say, in the CBD. Because she's just joined, she's out of the city, she doesn't have a lot of friends, she's getting hungry, and it's late at work, she wants to leave, and she's very, very tired. So she gets on the MRT and heads back home. Now, she's on her way home, and she's, maybe staying at a friend's place. And she's thinking, I don't want to go home and, be a burden on my friends. But I'm hungry and I don't have the energy to go outside. So let me see if I can order some food, right? Opens a phone, types in Thai food delivery. She feels like Thai today. Presses return, presses search. Some results come up, right? And because she's never lived in Singapore before, she doesn't have any idea of what these places are. This is the first time in Singapore. She looks at the first result over there. Indo-Thai food delivery, yumthai.com.sg. Like, okay, let me try Yumthai. So she taps on that. It opens more details, right? It shows her more details about Yumthai. There's a restaurant, fairly decently rated, 3.6. And it gives her the option to reserve a table. Obviously, she doesn't want to do that because she wants to eat at home. She wants delivery. She sees call. She's like, okay, cool. I'm going to call. So she taps call. Reality, evening, she's calling. She calls, is busy, hold busy. That happens a lot of times, right? Remember, she's on the MRT. She's like, okay. Hangs up, goes back to the website, and then she notices, oh, there's place an order. Okay, I'm going to try that. She taps on that. It takes her to the Yumthai website, and it drops her on the page where it just says, what would you like to order today? Yumthai has tried a lot and put in a lot of effort to figure out that weekday evening, 7 o'clock, somebody's coming to our website. That's most likely because they want to order food. So they drop her right at this page which says, okay, what would you like to order? Salads? We got salad, soups, meals, and desserts. Meals. Great. Here's 6 options, 5 options, most popular options. Great. She's in the mood for pad thai. Click. Okay, great. Select payment method. Now, Yumthai is showing her Apple, PayPal, Visa. She chooses PayPal, right? Because she doesn't have her local card yet. She's got PayPal account, so she can use it. PayPal website opens up. She logs into the PayPal website, which she's used to because she's done that many times. And because she's logging into PayPal, PayPal also has her address, right? And she's maybe added her Singapore address there as well. All she has to do on PayPal website is log in. It has her card details, it has her address, presses pay, and that's it. She's back at the Yumthai website, and it says order placed, done. And it also says estimated delivery 20 minutes. Immediately, she gets a message saying, your order of pad thai has been placed and your food should arrive in 20 minutes, right? So far, so good, great. She's sitting, by the time she gets home, at her friend's place, she's just chilling, kind of maybe had a shower, and she gets another notification saying, your order is on its way. Hope you enjoy your yummy yum pad thai. Now, if you think about this experience, that was a great experience on a lot of levels, right? She went to Google. That was the Google search engine I was using. She goes to the Google search engine, puts in Thai food. The first result that comes up, she taps on it immediately. In like 3 or 4 taps, she's made the order place. She didn't have to sign up to Yum Yummy Thai. She didn't have to put her address details, which obviously on the phone also sometimes starts taking time. She didn't have to put her credit card details. Didn't have to do any of that. It's just click, 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 and in no time at all, she got the order. And Yummy Thai also sent her SMSs to update her on the progress of her order. So many, many, many levels, this is an ideal scenario, an ideal experience from Yumthai's perspective. This is how they want or they wish their customers would interact with their product, right? It's completely seamless. They've reduced the chances of Joyce leaving their website so much that they're getting a lot of success. But it doesn't necessarily have to look this way, right? She could have been dropped at their website that was not optimized for mobile. She's on the MRT, she's looking at this, and this is a bit annoying because now you have to zoom in, zoom out. If you zoom in, you can only see that part. You don't know what's going on the rest of the page. You don't know if there's some information you're missing. Zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out. Not very good. It could have also taken her to their website and asked her to download the app. And again, imagine, Joyce has moved here. She's sitting on the MRT, signals going up and down. She doesn't want to download an app. And if you download an app, she's thinking, then I have to give permissions of notifications, sign up for an account, all of these things. She doesn't want to go through this hassle, right? So this experience that we saw earlier, in a lot of cases, in a lot of senses, is the right experience, right? And this kind of is the experience that a lot of consumers wish for, right? Us as consumers, this is the kind of experiences we want. We don't want to be bothered with websites that are not optimized for mobile. We don't want to have to download an app just to order one product from one company. And from Yumthai's perspective, if you think of the Yumthai, the restaurant, or the business owner's perspective, the question they would have started with would have been, what should I build? Should it be an app or a website, right? If you go back to when they started on their digital strategy, digital transformation journey, this is where they would have started. What shall I build? Shall I build an app or shall I build a website? Now, this is also the question that's been asked for a very, very long time, even in Singapore as well, like any market in the world. Everyone's been asking this question, especially since mobile apps became very popular. So, should I be building an app? Will people download my app? Or should I be building a website? What should I be doing? And we've been trying to answer this question. But in the last couple of years, there's been something else that's been going on here as well. I showed you guys an example of someone ordering food through Google, right? And the reality is, more and more people are not even doing that. If someone wanted to order food for delivery, they'd probably go to Deliveroo or GrabFood or Foodpanda, right? So the question's now changing again. Should I be building an app or a website, or should I be putting my services on what I'm going to call today platforms, right? And again, I kind of talked about platforms earlier. Platforms, just for this conversation, the definition of platforms is websites or services that allow you to be a business owner on them, right? So GrabFood, Foodpanda, Deliveroo, all of these allow regular restaurant owners to put their services there and sell them, right? So what should you be building? Now, this conversation can be a very, very long conversation, right? Because obviously it depends on the business, depends on what your goals are, depends on how much time you have, budget you have, all those 5 questions. But just to kind of give a little bit of context, I'm going to try and list down some of the pros of each of these and some of the cons of each of these, and hopefully that'll help you decide or have a better understanding of which way you should be going. So let's look at web first, right? The biggest advantage by far that web has that no other option has is that it's accessible everywhere on any device, right? What that means is you can open, doesn't matter which phone you have, doesn't matter which tablet you have, if it has a browser, you can open the browser, go to a website. That website doesn't even need to be optimized for mobile. It's not a great experience when it's not optimized for mobile phones, but you can still use it, right? That's the biggest advantage of web. If you put your business on the web, it will be accessible anywhere. You won't just be blocked from certain platforms because the web is everywhere. It's relatively easy in terms of discoverability. If you build a website, I'm making this too simple right now, but if you make a website, you should be able to get users through search engines like Google, right? If someone goes and says Joyce Florist, you should be able to, the customers should be able to find you, click on that, and find your shop. Customers may go to Google Maps and say florist near me, and hopefully you come up. All this is possible using web. For users, there's instant access. What that means is they don't have to download an app, they don't have to download anything. They just go to the website, click, 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 and that's all that's needed. There's no bottleneck for users to access your services. Easy to localize, that's becoming a big thing, especially now that the Asian market's booming. If you put a product, if you have a website, you open it in Google Chrome, you don't even have to localize it. Google will just give you the option, give the users the option, do you want to translate this? Yeah, translate it in my language, and that's it, done. That doesn't happen on apps, at least for now. You have instant updates. If you want to fix something, you can fix it and immediately it'll be live. You have complete control over what you're building. Of course, it comes with budget, money, time, but you have complete control over it. For apps, why do apps work? So apps generally can be a lot more powerful than websites. Apps have access to hardware on the devices that websites just don't. I'm giving very simple examples, but on every device, on every platform, there's APIs, right? APIs are basically parts of software that are only accessible to apps. So that allows for a lot advanced functionality, things like camera, mic, location, photos, augmented reality, virtual reality. A lot of these things, you only can access them if you build an app. A lot of these you can over time. Browse websites can support it as well, but it takes a lot more work. They have more powerful software support. Obviously, Apple, Google, they're spending so much money building these these platforms. They want you to build apps for these platforms. It's relatively easy to build really powerful apps than building really powerful websites. You log in once and you stay logged in. When was the last time someone tried to log into Facebook, for example, right? You log in once and that's it. You just stay logged in all the time. In a browser, you can get logged out. And that becomes quite a big consideration in terms of the consumer's usability as well. If it's an app you're using every day, or it's a service that you're using every day, you'd probably want an app for it, because otherwise a website will keep asking you for logins every now and then. On browsers, 30 days your cookies expire as well, 30 days or 60 days, I can't remember what the norm is today, so you'll get logged out. You also get dedicated real estate on the phone, and that's quite a big thing for businesses, right? You have an icon on the phone. If it's a website, you don't have that. It's kind of like in your browser somewhere. But this puts a dedicated brand on the phone. So that's quite a big reason for big organizations to build apps, if they can build something useful. And they usually get better performance because they're better integrated with the platforms. Now the new thing, the new kid on the block, which is platforms. Now platforms offer something that neither website or apps offer. Platforms are usually either apps or websites, right? Platforms can exist as an app or a website as well. The key thing about the platform is they're very cheap to get started with, right? So if you're thinking, if you're a florist, you can list yourself on HonestBee, right, which is another service here, and within like a week, you can have, you almost pay nothing to HonestBee to begin with, and you can have online delivery of flowers. And Honest Bee in this case will also provide auxiliary services like delivery, right? You don't have to work with anyone to start delivering. If people are placing orders online, you need to deliver those flowers as well. Honest Bee will provide you provide that service for you, where they will come pick up the flowers from you, and their marketing can work in your favor, right? If Honest Bee is putting a lot of money in marketing, driving a lot of people onto their platform, that hopefully will bring users to you as well. So platforms are becoming quite powerful, but obviously these are the pros. What are the cons of each one of them? What are the negative points of each of them? So web, first thing, there's lots of browsers to support. This is still a real issue. Can I just have a quick raise of hands? How many people here use Internet Explorer? What about Chrome? Almost everyone. Safari? Any other browsers? Sorry? Evian. Airbnb. I'm talking about the internet browsers. Yeah. No, but that's a platform. That's a great platform. Yeah. Sorry? Firefox. Yeah, Firefox is another one. I'm not even going to ask about Opera. I used to work there. No one uses it now. But yeah, there's a lot of browsers, and the problem is, so just to give a quick sense of how complex this can become, I just said Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Safari, and let's say Firefox as well. Those are 4 browsers. How many operating systems are there? There's Apple with Mac, and then there's Windows, and different versions of Windows as well. So to make your website work on each one of them, a lot of times you need to test it on each one of them. So you have 4 browsers. As Joyce, the florist, I want to make sure that anyone comes to my website, doesn't matter which browser they're coming from, they can use my website. So I need to test my website on all 4 of these browsers, on Mac, and then all 4 on Windows, the latest version, and probably one version behind that as well. That's 12 browsers I need to test on. I will probably also need to test the last 2 versions of the browsers as well. Azir, can I ask, I don't know if this is public information, but what, for the newspaper, digital newspaper, Stomp, what browsers do you support? How many browsers back do you go? Do you know?
I think Firefox was
yeah, Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer. But how many versions of Internet Explorer are you supporting?
Not sure about that.
I think so. Like my experience, yeah, but like my experience usually is the bigger the organization, because you have more users, you need to go back like 5-6 versions most of the time, because there will be a user sitting somewhere who's still not updated their Internet
Explorer. But what I know is that we have had complaints from users that they're not able to access our sites because they are on older browsers.
So that's what happens. New technologies come. You want to use the latest technologies, but old browsers on old Windows, old Macs won't be able to use it. So, and this is just desktop. And if you now start mixing mobile as well, you've got iPhone, you've got Android, you've got tablets. The number permutations and combinations increases a lot. The good thing is webs supporting all of these is still much cheaper than making different apps. So it's still much cheaper, but it does take a lot of effort. That's the first negative. Second is your users may actually not be looking for you on the website. What I mean by that is, Joyce, if she had, when she was coming back from work, if she had Deliveroo, she may not even go to Google. And look for Thai food. She may just open Deliveroo, look for Thai food, and order food, which means you never even had a chance to get Joyce as your customer, right? That's the other con about web. So that's maybe another favor for platforms. For dedicated workflows where we're trying to optimize workflows of people, imagine the person who got Joyce's delivery request on Yum Thai, right? The staff at Yum Thai, there was suddenly a pop-up saying someone's placed an order for pad thai that needs to be delivered in 20 minutes. Those people, if you expect them to be using websites, that usually doesn't work as well, because you need dedicated apps that can notify people, right? It says, hey, someone's just placed an order. You want to make sure those people never get logged out of the apps, right? So in those kind of scenarios, dedicated workflows, internal products, usually apps offer a better experience. Cons about apps, not cheap, right? That's the first thing. More expensive than websites because they're still a relatively, as compared to websites, newer technology, so more in demand. They require an initial download, right? You need to download the app. Plus, permissions, right? To use location, to use camera, to use notifications, you need permissions. It's becoming more and more annoying. We know that. This was the second highest reason people were uninstalling an app for one of our users who have more than 100,000 users in Singapore. For one of our clients, sorry. So the second highest reason why people were deleting their app was because they would download the app and they would start asking them for permissions for notifications. They would immediately delete the app. People are getting annoyed, you know. They don't want to spend that much time and give that much information, access to information. They're constrained by app platform rules. You can only build an app within the rules that Apple defines for you. You can only build an app that the rules that Google defines for you. So a lot of times you can't have the same app on both Apple and Google because rules defined are different. This is quite a big one as well. You can't update your apps instantly. If there's something wrong with the app today, you can't just quickly call your developer and say, can you fix it and launch it? No. You can call your developer, they'll fix it. They then have to submit it, for example, to Apple, and then Apple will take a few days to approve it, and then it goes out. Google is faster, but another consideration. And then, you know, multiples of screens and devices and platforms, kind of similar to browsers, not as much though. iPhone, Android, tablet phone, all of these different combinations. Last one is platforms. Largely, you know, the thing is, it's a platform. They're largely control what you do. They'll tell you what you can put on their platform and what you can't. You have to play by their rules. You know, they will say we're going to charge you 20% of your, cost. You have to pay them. If you're really trying to scale up your business, let's say you've been working with Deliveroo for a year and you want to take your business to the next level, you may not be able to do that because your scale, your growth will be dependent on how fast the platform's growing, right? So you may have to go on multiple platforms. And the biggest part, they come and go, right? You can start depending on a platform, but they may not be around next year, right? A good example of that is Uber, right? Uber and Grab were competing for a long time. Uber was quite big here. A lot of taxi drivers jumped ship and said, I'm going to start working for Uber now because it's, whatever reasons. And then one day, and it was literally one day, we all heard at lunch, Uber's no more, and 3 hours, they gave 3 hours to their employees to vacate the offices. That was it. What happened to all the taxi drivers who were working with them? Luckily, in this case, there was Grab to say, come to us. But it doesn't happen like that all the time, right? Another example I'll give is O-Bike. Those yellow bikes that were littering Singapore till a couple of months ago. When they were launched, they became really big, really quick, right? And you would see them everywhere. Suddenly, one day they announced, we can't work with the Singapore regulations because Singapore was saying, don't litter our roads, don't litter our streets, be more organized about it. And they gave up. They said, we're not going to do this. And they just packed up and left. And if you were, on that kind of, if you were a supplier or whatever on that kind of platform, like startups and these trends, they may come and go and you may not be able to do anything about it. Another one is Rakuten. Remember Rakuten was in Singapore a couple of years ago, which is an online marketplace. You could put products and they could sell. One day they decided they're going to go. So anyone who built up a business based on Rakuten didn't have any option. They had to look for other things. So that's the big risk there. So that's the pros and the cons of webs, apps, and platforms. There's opportunities everywhere. You need to decide based on what you think your goals are. And platforms provide a great way to get started in scaling up your business. Very, very cheap. You basically need to make sure you can match the initial growth that the platforms will give your business. But then web, you own everything. It's going to be accessible everywhere. But then depending on what you're trying to do, maybe an app's a better option. But bottom line, build for your users, not the technologies or the stakeholders. That's the main thing. Keep in mind, your business is still going to come from the users. That's who you need to build for. All right, so customer journey mapping, right? So what is this? So since this morning, Azhar and I have both been talking about users. You really need to keep your users right in the center of what you do. The example I gave of Joyce the florist, I hope to illustrate the same point. Then I gave the example of Joyce, the worker who just moved to Singapore. Maybe I should have named her differently to avoid confusion. But we're like, at the end of the day, when you're putting money into a product, your goal usually is to earn revenue, and that revenue comes from users. So if you don't put the users right in the middle, right in the center right in the front of how you're approaching your products, your marketing, your digital strategy, you're not giving yourself the best chance to succeed. You're building for, if you're not building for users, then you're building for someone else, and your goals might be quite misplaced. So customer journey mapping is a tool that enables you to bring the users right front and center. Not just for yourself, but especially in big organizations, you can use this tool to get everyone in the organization aligned to the same thought of catering to users. You can get buy-in from stakeholders. We use this, especially in big organizations, because we need stakeholders to kind of come in and start agreeing to, committing to, activities that cater to users. This exercise, so what I'm going to try to do here is try to show what this is, what the benefits are, and how you do it. This exercise takes less than 2-3 hours to do. Very, very effective, and has very long-lasting effects. So, what are the challenges, first of all, that we're trying to solve? We're trying to solve the challenges of everything that we've been talking since this morning, that the reason you need to answer those 5 questions that I showed earlier is because most of the time, the goals have not been defined to place users in the center of it. As soon as you start thinking about your users, you will have clear goals. And you will then be able to put metrics in front of them. You will know who you're building for. You will already have budgets and times, and everything will start getting aligned to who you're catering to. So, the reason we're building customer journey maps is customers interact with us in many different ways. I kind of try to illustrate that. Joyce ordered on Google, but she could have done it on a website. She could have also done it on a platform. She could have also been walking down the street and saw Yum Thai, decided to pop in, do takeaway. Right? There's many ways customers will interact with your product. Customer journey mapping tries to capture as many of those as possible. Most products are built on assumptions because we've not gone out and spoken to users. We don't know we feel that we know what the users need, but that's a feel. We feel that the users know what we feel that we know what the users need. We need to turn that feeling into a fact. That's another thing that customer journey mapping helps with. This is quite a controversial one, but our vision to build a product is usually just inspired by our own idea, right? A lot of products come out of, hey, I had this idea, let me go and build it. And you get so convinced by your own idea, you get so convinced by this vision that you have, that this end result that you have, that you start putting money and time and effort into it and start looking for investors. But that idea is, because the ideas are such a powerful force, like anyone, if you have an idea and you can convince yourself around an idea, it's such a powerful motivator that you forget to think about users. You forget to think about who's gonna use it. You start thinking, if I can build a product that I can understand, I know about my users will use it. And usually when you're doing that, you're setting up yourself up for some real bad failures later on. So customer journey mapping tries to help you with that as well. And the other challenge usually is that users come in last in conversations around strategy. This is very true for big organizations. When you're building B2B products, you usually start building a product because a stakeholder, a CEO, or a technical director, or someone said, build this, right? And that's where it started. The conversation started by someone telling you to build it, and you just go build what they asked you to build. And when you build it, no one knows what it's for, because you haven't figured out who your users are. You haven't figured out what those users need. So the whole thing around customer journey mapping is it aims to answer all these questions, bring everyone on the same page, that you start discussing these questions. The solution that's proposed, which is the journey map, is a way to understand how your customers interact with the different parts of your product in different ways, and also create a context which puts users in the center, like I said earlier, that you're looking at the user's journey and trying to figure out how you can improve that. Because if you can improve the user's journey, it will hopefully mean you're improving the value of your product, you're adding value, you're solving something for the users, and they will come back to your product. Right, so it's basically just a visualization of all the interactions. I'm just going to jump right into examples. I'm just showing some high-level examples first, and then we'll dive deep into it. It's not going to actually take very long. this is a customer journey map built by Rail Europe, right? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, okay, these are the different stages of interaction with of our customers with us. Don't worry if you can't read it, because we're gonna break this down a bit. I'm just gonna quickly walk you guys through what this is. These are the different stages of interaction. These are what our users are doing at these different stages of interaction. And then they try to capture what else is happening. What are the users thinking? What are the users feeling? What are the users experiencing at each of these interaction points, right? Now, the reason they built this, again, is so that anyone in the organization who's part of this discussion is part of a discussion about what the users are doing, what they're feeling, what they're thinking. It's a very powerful force. Once you start thinking about how the users are feeling, you start thinking about, oh, the users aren't feeling great at this point. When they're purchasing tickets, they're not feeling great. Or whichever that point may be, you start thinking about how to solve that. And just by virtue of doing that, you're already thinking about how to solve problems for the users. Another example is customer journey map that looks something like this. Obviously, this is a lot more high fidelity, complex. The end result of your customer journey map may or may not look like this, but the value and the information is going to be the same that you see here. I've shown this to say, you know, if your organization really invests in customer journey maps, usually they end up being turned into infographics like this and plastered on walls, because then it becomes a guiding force that anyone who's having any conversation about a product, you look at the customer journey map and say, which part of the customer's journey am I influencing right now? Here's another example, right? Where we're going to start is our customer journey map today is going to look a bit like this, right? Which is where every customer journey map starts. Don't worry about what's written. I'm going to walk everyone through that. But it's not going to look like basically this or this or this, right? Those are the end results. Our customer journey map is going to start very basic. And then at some point, if you guys want, you can turn it into one of those graphics. Main things. The benefits of these maps, I think I've already spoken about these, so I'm going to kind of give a very high level overview. That main benefit, put the user in the center, give context. Also, highlight gaps. When you start putting down your customer's journey, putting down what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, you'll start seeing gaps in their experience, right? Just to give an example, let's say Yum Thai, the Thai restaurant, had built their website. They got payment, everything exactly the way we saw it. But imagine if they didn't do that last step of sending the SMS. If they didn't do that, because from a website perspective, you've actually done everything great. You've got one of the best, most convenient websites. But if now on the customer journey, you think about it, Joyce has placed the order, now she's waiting. What's she feeling at this point? What's she thinking at this time, right? If you start thinking about your users, you'll probably realize that she's thinking, did my payment go through? I didn't get any confirmation. Did this really happen? It only took 4 or 5 clicks. She may log into her PayPal to make sure, did that actually happen, right? And then she's sitting there wondering, is Yum Thai actually going to deliver my order? Yum Thai sent her another message which said, your delivery is almost there, your order's almost there. That again reinforces the trust, the confidence, the comfort, right? If they didn't send that message, Joyce would just be sitting there 20 minutes later and thinking, did I just pay $10 and I'm never going to see anything? Is my food going to be here? She may start going out, she may talk to her friends and they may say, we've never heard of this. She may head out, the person may actually come to the place and there's no one there to receive it. All of those things, if she didn't do that, a customer journey map will try to highlight that for you as well and say, here are some places where you're actually missing out. You can add more to the experience, right? So that's what it helps like. And just before I proceed, this is a very important one. It's a great excuse to get all the stakeholders involved. In fact, you should not do a customer journey mapping without stakeholders involved. What's going to be the outcome? Again, I think I'm repeating myself quite a lot here. An opportunity for everyone to get involved and think about the product in the right context. So I'm going to jump straight in. How do you make a customer journey map? I've already shown some examples of customer journey maps. Your goal is to basically, get to a point like this, where you kind of have, this is the journey, these are the different stages of the customer's journey, this is what they do at each stage, this is what they're thinking, this is what they're feeling, this is what they're experiencing. That's all, that's very simple. But how do you prepare for it? How do you set up yourself to do this? A couple of things you have to do before you actually get into the workshop. First thing, you have to get to know your users. You can't write down about what they're feeling, what they're thinking, if you've not actually spoken to your users. If you start writing down based on your own assumptions, those are still going to be assumptions. They're not going to be true. They're going to be influenced by the loudest voice in the room. You know, if you base these things on the assumptions, the CEO, whatever assumptions he says are probably going to go on the board, because you know who's going to argue? Everyone's saying assumptions. CEO is going to say, well, if it's this assumption, then my assumption is better than yours, right? Don't work on assumptions. Work on user research. Get to know your users. Get the right people involved. If you don't have the right stakeholders involved, if you don't have the people who work with customers involved, if you don't have people who control budgets involved, then this is not going to have a lot of success, because they will feel they didn't have a voice in this. And then the last step is just running the workshop. So quickly going through this, some tips here. So first of all, get to know the users. Remember, Azhar talked about personas, right? So we build personas a lot. If you've already built personas, use those personas. And the way to build a persona is go out, talk to 10 people, recognize patterns between those people, and say, this is one persona. So for example, I built Joyce, who's 30 to 35 years old. I didn't say one age. I didn't say 32 years old. I could have, but I'm giving a range because I'm building a persona. I'm trying to say Joyce represents a group of people who form about a big majority of my user group, right? So for Yum Thai, I just assumed for now for this exercise, but go out, talk to people, make some personas, write down all the data that you can about your users. If you're working in a big organization that's been around for a while, chances are that you already have information on the users, because somebody in marketing at some time would have done some research. This kind of personas and research is one of the oldest tools and techniques that marketing teams use. Talk to your marketing teams, get some information in. If you don't have any information on your users, do two things. There's analytical research, anecdotal research. I'm going to just break it down very simply. Analytical research is you just want to get a lot of people and analyze how they're using your existing product, if it is an existing product, right? Look at web analytics, look at your website data, look at Google Analytics, see what they're saying. What time do people come to the website? Where are they coming to the website from? Which are the pages where people stop using your website? How long do people stay on the website? Are they filling out the form once they click on contact us? All those kind of things. Look at your social media. Look at the feedback that people are giving on your social media channels. Are they saying positive things? Are they saying negative things? Note down all the things that stand out. Anything positive, anything negative, note it down. Surveys. If you can do surveys, like the guys over there were saying, do surveys. And surveys are pretty straightforward. You can go to, for example, SurveyMonkey and make a survey for $150, and all you have to do is share it with people. Now, if you're Joyce the florist, $150 is not a lot of money, but you're like, will I actually get return on my investment? What I would suggest you do then, on Facebook you can create polls, right? On Facebook you can create these kind of questions as well. Just put them there. If you're a small business, you only need a little bit of data. But start with some real data, don't start with assumptions. That's called analytical research. Then it's anecdotal research. Anecdotal research is basically talking to your users. Well, as I was stressing on face-to-face interviews, and you don't need a lot of users. Even for products like MyEnvy, which has more than 300,000 active users, when we do our research, we only talk to 5 users. That's it. You don't need more than that. In fact, anecdotal research, the bigger it becomes, you're turning it into analytical and you're losing the return on investment. Talk to 3 users to 7 users. That's the median usually. All you need to do is talk to 3 to 7 people and say, just note down what they're talking about. What you're trying to do here is find out who these people are. Find out what their pain points are. If possible, talking to them about the different stages of your interaction and asking them what they're feeling, what they're thinking. You prepare all this data and then you use it for your customer journey mapping. So yeah, these are the things that you're looking for, pain points, where do these struggle. In the PDF that you will get in email, there will actually be a more comprehensive list of questions if you are actually doing analytical and anecdotal research. That these are the questions that can help you get started on asking users, so that should hopefully be helpful. So I'm not going to go through that because you will get that later on. Second thing, getting the right people involved. Who are the right people to be working on a customer journey map in that workshop? Product owners, anyone who has any influence on the product, what the product's going to be, product executors, people who are actually going to be in charge of making the product, people who have influenced the decision to make the product. So these could be stakeholders. You know, the stakeholders could be saying, hey, I need you to build this product. You need those people involved. You need people involved from, let's say you're building a product which is optimizing your sales team's workflow. You need people from the sales team in. And in the end, you need influencers, the stakeholders. That's the big one. You want to get your CEOs, your directors, your vice presidents, your presidents involved as much as possible, because then that's the biggest advantage of, one of the biggest advantages of the customer journey map, that it gets everyone on the same page. Or everyone starts talking about the same things. When you approach someone after the customer journey mapping and talk about something, they will have the context of why you're saying we need to do A, not B, because we discussed in the customer journey map so and so happened. And also, this will force these people to start thinking about the customers rather than organization and business processes, right? That's what you want to do. The last thing, you run a workshop. Very easy. It genuinely is a very, very easy thing, and we're going to do one right now. This is how customer journey mapping will look like. It's very, very straightforward. I'm just showing these pictures to show it doesn't look, those images that we saw earlier, it doesn't look like that when you start. It really just starts like this. It's just a bunch of post-it notes or a bunch of pieces of paper aligned, put on a whiteboard or a wall. What we're going to do today is probably going to look a bit like this, right? So there's only two things you need to do for a customer journey map to run the workshop. First thing is to come up with the different key stages of interaction that you want to track, right? And these stages, you can you look at your users, you look at which flow or which part of your organization or which part of your product you're trying to improve, and come up with that. So I've done this based on someone trying to buy a car online, right? So it'll start, their key stages of interaction would be discovery. First of all, they go online, start discovering, start Googling, start exploring. This could also be called research. So customers are going to start Googling and researching what type of, are there any cars in my budget range? What cars can I buy, etc., etc. Then maybe they decide and they start placing an order. There may be other steps in between as well, but maybe they start placing an order. Once they place the order, they're waiting now maybe they're waiting for the confirmation, maybe they're waiting for the car to be delivered. And then there's delivery, right? So they get the delivery, and then there's after sales, and hopefully not, but in a lot of cases, there's return. So all you're trying to do here is the different stages of interaction with your product. If we think of Joyce and the ordering food from Yum Thai, that's quite easy as well, right? We started with discovery. She found the product online, the website online. She went in and ordered. Then she was waiting. Then she got delivery. Maybe there's after sales or return, but in this case, maybe the return is she returns back to Yum Thai to order again, right? It's very, very standard. These stages of interaction, over time, these are the ones that we use. You'll tweak something here or there based on, if the experience is very different. So that's the first thing you need. Just write down the stages of interaction. So these are the stages of interaction that you're trying to monitor or analyze. And the second thing is, what's the information you're trying to capture about these stages of interaction? And these are very, very fluid. These are not fixed. Depending on whatever information you have, you can put different things. But these are some of the most common ones. You usually want to put down at each of these stages, what is the customer doing? That's usually helpful. What are they thinking? It's a hard one to answer. So you may not be able to fill it for each one of these, but in some places, you may be able to answer this. A lot of times you get the thinking and feeling from the anecdotal research if you've been talking to customers. So you might be thinking something, you might be feeling something. In the discovery stage, what was Joyce doing? She was on Google, right? She was looking for yummy Thai food. What was she thinking? I'm hungry. I want to go home, but I don't want to disturb my flatmates or my friends with food. What was she feeling? She was feeling hungry, obviously, right? She was feeling hungry. That's what she wanted to. That's why she was looking for food. What was her experience at this point? Quite straightforward. She just clicked Google and she found something. Then some other things that you can start noting down below it. These are kind of external things, and these are internal things to your organization. Which platforms did Joyce interact with you? We already know. The platform here is, I'm not talking about the web app and platform. This is more like, is it a website or is it an app or is it actually one of those grab food platforms? You just write that down here. Now, where was Joyce interacting with us? Then you say, on that platform, what was our weakness and what was our strength? In Yum Thai's case, the strength was we had a great website. They'd done a very good job. And I can't actually think of a weakness here. Right, they were the first in the search results. Maybe when she was searching, if they won the first in the search results, they would have listed down, we won the first in the search results. Joyce had to scroll down and then find us. That could be a weakness. And you do that and you fill it up for each one of them, each one of these boxes. So I've actually filled it up for Joyce. What was she doing? She was leaving work and on the MRT, and she was searching for food online. What was thinking? I'm not going to have time to cook and I need to eat because it's quite late. She was feeling hungry. Experience was quite neutral, right? She searched online. She found what she expected. It wasn't a delight. It wasn't a disappointment. She went to Google and she expected to find something. She found it. Platforms, it was a mobile phone, first of all, and then it was a browser. And then weaknesses, I put nothing. Strengths, we are the first result in the search engine. We've got a great website and so on and so forth. So now, we're going to get to the exercise. So we're going to spend 15 minutes on this exercise, not very long, because after that, Azhar's got one more session, and then we'll have a Q&A as well. So what I'm going to do is, obviously, we don't have time to go out and do user research and figure out users, right? We don't have the time here. So I'm going to actually make a persona for you guys, and after that, we're going to start making these customer journey maps. Right, so the customer journey map is now, again, for Joyce. So it's the same character that I've already introduced. She is now trying to rent an apartment in Singapore. That's the experience that she's going through. We're all going to assume that we are all working for a rental service, an online rental service. All right, so we're a website which provides the opportunity to people to rent apartments online. Again, just going through Joyce's persona. She's 35 years old, earns about 80K to 100K, very tech literate. She's just moved to Singapore, which is why she's looking for an apartment. But she's never been to Singapore before, just keep that in mind as well. This is her first time here. A few other things that will be helpful. She's single. She wants to spend no more than 25% of her monthly salary on rent. Right? Gives us an idea of the budget. Ideally, she doesn't want to travel long to work. I kind of painted the picture. She was in the CBD. So kind of tells us she wants to be in the CBD or around the center of Singapore. And she doesn't mind sharing, right? So those are the constraints. And we're going to try and build a customer journey map for this. Again, keep in mind we're all working for a company that's trying to build a website which caters to someone like Joyce. Since we've got 15 minutes, I would say maybe we only focus on about 4 to 5 stages of interaction. We won't have to do time to do a very long customer journey map. And then on this side, we just start making another list, which will be what are the things we want to note. And I'll bring up the same slide that I had earlier so we can look at what are the things that we usually use. And again, maybe just 4 or 5, no more than that. And we're just going to use 15 minutes. The idea here is the groups kind of need to get together and decide what needs to go here and here. So have a quick discussion, try to figure out what are the 5 points of interaction, and what are the 5 things you want to measure. And after that, everyone takes the light yellow notepads and start putting down things in different places. Don't worry about, we don't need discussion for the second part. The idea is everyone's ideas get on the board. And after that, we're going to kind of get together and analyze them and filter them out to result, so that it results in a customer journey map. Is that cool? Cool. All right. One thing is, after the workshop, a few crucial things, mainly two. First, whatever journey you guys have decided, right? If you've done the interaction points, whatever's been decided, make sure you go and validate that once more. Because in a discussion, someone will say, hey, there's one more interaction point, which is this. And under that interaction point, you'll start listing down what the user was doing, thinking, feeling. But if you've not prepared for that interaction point, you may not have data. So just go and validate that once more. So there may be one more round of kind of little user research. Meet a couple of people and kind of ask them about those interaction points, how their experience was there. That's the first one. And the second one is convert, if possible, convert the map into something like this. If you're in a big organization, get a graphic designer. It doesn't have to look this cool, but the idea is don't put it in a drawer or put it in, file somewhere. Put it on the walls, because that then becomes something that everyone in the organization is always thinking about, always talking about. Put it in the cafeteria. You will see people coming, looking at this, and giving ideas. A lot of these examples will be in the worksheets as well, so you guys can actually zoom in and look at the details as well, what people are doing here. And yeah, that's basically it. Build for your users, again, not the organization and stakeholders. And that's it from me. Thank you very much. Hopefully this was helpful.